Hello and welcome. Today we are at Leftenant Blackwolf's study inside the sanctuary. And we're starting our first class on dragon biology.
Bones! Get a cup of tea and settle in. Dani, thank you so much for being here with us today and bringing these magnificent specimens. My goodness, what a collection you have.
Why, thank you. All of these skeletons were donated to us by the lovely members of the society.
Thank you so much. Well, these are truly amazing. And of course, with such specimens, we're able to learn so much about the dragons we so cherish. Now, I notice you have some very large dragons and some dragons that are not quite so large. And we have some tiny ones here, too. Look at this one right here. Let's start with the big one first. Can you tell us about this? What is this?
Well, this is a large female red dragon.
Of course.
You may notice that we have this one that is very single. This is a male red dragon. We've discovered with most dragon species that the females seem to be larger in order to protect the nest and the eggs as well, while the males seem to be much smaller.
Of course, very good. Now I notice there's some very different features between the two besides their relative size. For example, on the female here, the horn is very smooth, whereas on the male you have ridges and such. On the male there are two nose horns, and the female has one nose horn.
It is quite incredible seeing all the different differences that
Right.
the dragon skeletons have. It's also observed that the male dragons seem to always have this protrusion from the skull.
Yes, indeed. You see it right here. You don't see that particular. It's different here.
Yes.
Right. Yes, I see what you mean. Fantastic. Now I notice on the wings here, you have 3 fingers on each wing, and you have these great claws here and here. What do you suppose those claws were for?
Well, these red dragons' bones were found in the mountains, so it's believed that these are used to claw onto the rocks and help maybe hold on or to climb.
Oh, very interesting.
You may see that they only have 3 of the fingers, as we call them,
Right.
but they're very strong and very thick fingers. This means that they are a very powerful flyer, and they put a lot of weight onto these wings.
And that's a good point that you bring up, because you see these bones here. See, like these right here are extremely robust. The leg bones and such, the rib cage is very thick. And even though this dragon is smaller, you still have the robust bones here in the wings and legs and such. Now, these bones are very strong, yet hollow to help reduce weight so that these animals can fly.
That's very true. Yes, very big, strong animals.
Fascinating. Now, of course, Dani and I are wearing protective gloves to help preserve these specimens, which, of course, are not entirely common. They're quite rare, as a matter of fact. So we wish to take good care of them. So we have here a skull from a dragon, which is amazing in my opinion. You'll notice that it has horns here, small horns upon the eyebrow ridges there. And one distinguishing feature I find about this particular dragon skull is the teeth. I'll try to articulate it here a little bit so you can see. In the front, there are sharp teeth, whereas in the back portion of the jaw, there are molars. Why do you suppose that is?
Well, if you look at the Dragon Preservation Research Journal, it speaks about how you can tell the diet of the dragon just from the teeth. as majority of the dragons that we have here have very sharp teeth that show that they're carnivores. But this not-so-little guy
Indeed.
has molars, as well as canines and other sharp teeth and incisors, so we believe that he may have been a omnivore.
Very good strategy for survival, because it enables you to find more diverse types of food than just meat, such as with the red dragons here, which are obviously carnivores primarily. Now this particular skull also, I've noticed, bears a marked resemblance to a dinosaur called the Dracorex, of course, which means king dragon. And there's a thought that dragons and dinosaurs evolved simultaneously, but perhaps even. There's a lot of similarities between the two creatures. And so, whereas the dinosaurs per se did not survive the years, though we do have birds and other descendants of them, the dragons seem to have done right well and have even flourished to some extent.
Now, going to the smaller species we have the skeletal dragons. These are dragons. These are dragons. They're not the skeletons of dragons. I believe that you have something in your book that speaks about skeletal dragons.
That is correct. In the compendium on the observation of dragons, we have in the back here, in chapter 9 under types of dragons, the skeleton dragon, which is an interesting creature in and of itself. Now, of course, these are specimens, and of course, want to emphasize all of these specimens were not harmed to collect them. They were collected and preserved and such as you see them here. The name skeleton dragon, or as it's sometimes called the bone dragon, is actually a misnomer. It is just as much flesh and yes, bone as any other dragon, or yourself and I for that matter. Its skin, flesh, and organs are translucent, appearing quite invisible except for the bones you see here in most light, and certainly so in the dark hours when it was more often observed. Very similar to certain deep-sea creatures. I find that extremely fascinating. I know there was a skeletal dragon that was residing in downtown Stanton for a period of time, and it has not been seen for a while, so we believe it has moved on. But again, you have here the similarities between the size.
Yes, of course, we go with the female is the larger one and the male is the smaller one. Even with the smaller skeletal dragon, you can still see the jawbone that the male red dragon holds. With bones and such, even with the skeletal dragon, you can really tell the history and the story of the dragon when it lived. For instance, with this little guy here, the way that his wings almost spread out, it's believed that they're more of a gliding dragon than a flight dragon, as you have these giant wings.
And I noticed that these dragons have 4 fingers as opposed to the 3 that you referred to earlier. Fascinating.
They may have been used almost like bat wings, how they climb.
Mm-hmm.
So again, with the climb and hook, and they almost have a thumb on their wings.
Indeed. You were talking about the stories that the bones tell us. And I believe this fellow here has a story to tell us as well.
Indeed. You may have already noticed a bit that his tail looks a little strange. This guy, as we can look here, seems to have had a broken tail at one point. But by the way that his body has healed and such, his tail seems to be in perfect condition. Let's be a little kink, if you would say, in his tail.
So he healed and went on to live a good life.
Yes, as you can tell by his very strong bones and such, you can tell that he probably had a very good diet and lived an amazing life, I bet.
Very good.
Now I brought something of my own personal collection. This is a water dragon jaw. There are two types of water dragons. There's the pure aquatic and the semi-aquatic. The pure aquatic dragons, being living in the water for all their life, actually have a cartilage structure instead of a bone structure like these guys. And the only really bone part of them is the jaw. Very similar to sharks and other creatures like that.
Indeed.
Even the tooth structure is very similar to a shark's.
I have heard the stories about dragon teeth, sea dragons, water dragons' teeth, being found on shores and beaches and being mistaken for shark teeth, and I can see that very well here. There's a species of prehistoric shark that no longer exists called the megalodon, which is much, much bigger than current day great white shark. And their teeth are quite large, like this or so. And I could see where a dragon's tooth and those teeth would be easily mistaken one for the other.
Yes, indeed.
Now I dare say the specimen I have here would be called a miniature dragon, or a mini.
Yes.
Now what type of dragon is this?
Well, if you actually look at the almost plates on his head and his back, actually I believe it's a female, which means that the smaller dragons must be extremely
That would
small.
be very small.
But it is a good reason for them being small, as they are a flower dragon.
Ah.
Flower dragons are very small, obviously. And if you look at her wings, you may see that the membrane of the wings is still intact. It's believed that they used the wings almost as camouflage to look more like, what's it called, petals or leaves.
Right.
As well as maybe that's why they have the plates.
To look like a leaf or a petal of a flower.
Yes.
Well, isn't that amazing? Now what do these dragons feed upon?
Well, you may see that they have very small teeth and they almost look like the fuse.
Huh.
The reason why is they are a type of dragon that eats either the pollen or the nectar that comes from the flower.
I see.
Yeah, they enjoy staying in the flower beds and such. Unlike some of these larger, like red dragons, you may find a flower dragon in your backyard or garden.
Isn't that special?
Now, as we've spoken before about different sizes of dragons, these bones show them perfectly. You have the miniature flower dragon, you have the small skeletal dragon, and you have the medium fire dragons. Now, the Titan skull I wanted to show you wouldn't fit in the bed of my truck, sadly.
I can understand that would be difficult. And so these are not particularly large dragons that we see here.
No, these are just the mediums. And even with the male being smaller, they're still considered a medium-sized class dragon. It wouldn't be that the female would be large and the male would be small or anything like that.
Understandable. Right. Very good. If you would like to read more information on dragon physiology and see more information on dragon skeletons, please look in Chapter 7 in the Compendium of Dragon Observation. Dani, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for visiting us today.
It's been an honor. If you have any dragon skeletons that you'd like to show us, we'd be happy to see them. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments and we'll be happy to answer them. I'll see you on the next adventure. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Until then, happy observing.